Hello and welcome to Zuper FM Field Service Your Way with your host, Michael Israel. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. How are you, Wendy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. So we have a guest.
Yes, we do.
And who do we have today?
We have Mark Scharaga, and Mark is the founder and president, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mark, please, but of Sora Partners, and we're going to hear more about Mark's story as we go into the podcast.
Yes, you got that correct.
Great, great.
All right. So looking forward to it. So here we go.
All right. Mark, thanks so much for joining this podcast. I really appreciate it. I think the audience is going to be very interested in what you have to say today. So let me start by asking you, tell us a little bit about Sora Partners. What is the business and what is your role in it? And what is your history with the organization as well?
Sure. Well, I'm going to go backwards on that a little bit because I founded Sora Partners. We are an implementation / managed service provider. So with that, kind of in a nutshell, it's fancy words, but in a nutshell, we're doing implementation for point of sale systems. So we'll do everything from the training, go live, and configuration support, and even ongoing support post live for those customers. But we also go back and we're offering things like managed services. So we can provide like a managed IT network for our customers who typically in our market, which is hospitality, is our core focus.
Okay.
It's one of those things that's kind of like, it's kind of hit and miss. And so we've kind of made a niche out of that.
Oh, cool. So what's your a little bit more about your role there and how long have you been there? And
yeah. That helps. You did ask that.
No problem. No worries.
So we started in January of 2021, but the company was originally part of another company that began in May of 2020, where I kind of used to work for a company called Toast Point of Sale. And so they went through a layoff process during COVID, and I went back and felt like the services that I was offering as an employee would still be of value to their customers, and they agreed. So we started with 3 people, and then we split the 2 companies apart because it was a venture with my brother. And to keep that brotherly love, I think we needed to split the 2 ventures because we had
okay.
Yeah, different visions for the business. But ever since then, since January 2021, it's been Sora Partners, and I've been leading the charge and trying to define the direction of the company.
Oh, that's great. Good for you. Why don't you give us 1 or 2 stories about some of the customers that you serve, or 1 or 2 of the customers, and what do they do with your equipment and your services?
Yeah, typically, so we work with there's a restaurant group called Art Group, and they own one of their franchises or brands is Tilted Kilt. So we've been in there providing everything from the menu configurations and maintenance for them to on-site services such as we're installing like a Las Vegas location coming up in the near future. But they contract us directly to do these services.
Okay. And what kind of is that point of sale services at the restaurant then, and other services? You said something about you do maintenance. What kind of maintenance?
So the maintenance, we do point of sale. We focus. We don't sell any point of sale systems, but we are a service provider for point of sale companies that are looking for on-site services. So that's where we come in. So we'll go in like there's basically 3 primary components of doing a point of sale implementation. There's the setup and an install, which is what we're involved in. There's a training component, which we also get involved in. And then there's what they call a go live experience. And that's when the system is cut over from the training point to a live state where they're going to use it and process transactions.
So your team is involved in that entire process then?
We are. And then the last thing we do on top of that is we offer ongoing support and services that go along with that.
So do you offer like service contracts to them then?
We do.
Cool.
Yeah. Because a lot of these customers will struggle with maintaining a point of sale system. They're used to the old systems and they knew how to manage that, but now they have a new system. So there's that learning curve and they don't necessarily know how to manage that process.
Yeah, anytime there's a change for people, it's always difficult, especially in a business environment, I think, when you're changing technologies.
Yeah, we've had people cry during cutovers. So
Yeah. So how many people do you have out in the field doing these services?
right now we have about 70 techs that are out in the field, and we cover about 15 states and about 85% of the country.
Wow, 85% of the country from a population standpoint or a
Population standpoint.
Okay, so you're in the big states, and obviously you're in Las Vegas. I used to live in Las Vegas, so I'm just curious, where's the restaurant?
Well, there's one on the strip that we deal with, but we actually deal with about 8 different locations and different restaurants.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably have eaten in one of them.
I'm probably, I think I have, and I'm sure you have.
Yeah, cool. So, I know that it's been a little while, I guess, but you've recently chose and implemented Zuper, which we're certainly grateful for. Thank you. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you, what kind of issues or problems were you having with your operations that made you want to go search for a field service management system?
Well, what we were doing, it was so disjointed. So we were using like Google Calendar invites, and then there was spreadsheets involved, Google Sheets, and it was a process of trying to manage all those different field resources. And on top of that, we have work that comes in through our primary partner, which is Toast, and Toast uses Salesforce, right? So the two, so we were having trouble maintaining like sanity between the two systems, or because there were so many steps in our old way of doing it, there was opportunity for missteps or things that didn't get completed or followed up on, or just overlooked completely.
Right.
So it was a challenge, especially because that work's increasing. We're getting more and more direct business each month. It's a rapidly growing segment of our business, and intentionally it is, because we don't want to be beholden to one particular company for all our revenue.
Right.
So that's kind of where the struggles lie.
So that was your impetus in looking for basically I guess a single solution to manage all the service operations. Is that a fair statement?
With the exception of the Toast piece, because of the Salesforce component, we don't have permissions to access any of the back end data tables and stuff like that. So we couldn't build a hook into Zuper to manage it from one single point, which we'd love to do, but unfortunately Toast will not permit that.
Yeah.
So we do have to have the two systems, but Zuper's basically streamlining a lot of that for us.
Okay, well, that's great. So when you started your search, how did you identify Zuper? And if you want to talk about others that you looked at as well, and how did you go about identifying candidate applications for what you're doing?
Well, because what terms us not having exposure to it is like, what terms are we supposed to search on? It was kind of like a challenge. So each day I would try different searches, and different vendors would come up, like Service Nation, or I think was another. There's about 40 of them. So it's kind of like, you're weeding through them, trying to figure out what they can do, without getting too involved in the demo process at that point, because you just kind of want to have a short list, because it can be overwhelming. I mean, there's so many things, and we want to do everything, right? And we have all these great intentions, but at the end of the day, it's like, how do you implement all of this? Because we are a small team on the management side, and so we need a bit of hand-holding, as you well know.
Yeah. So you ended up with Zuper on your list. Why did Zuper make your short list?
When we looked at the solution, we found that it seemed to meet all the key objectives of, does it do geo-based dispatching? Can we have a queue? Does it have a Gantt feature? Are we able to build our forms into the closeout process? All these kinds of pieces and parts that we struggle with, that were all separate before.
Right.
How can we get them in one place? And Zuper checked all those boxes.
Well, that's great. When did you make the decision? Do you recall that you were going to move to Zuper?
I think we made it. It's almost a year ago. It's July of last year or
Yeah.
August of last year. Yeah.
So you're using, are you using today, are you using the mobile application as well? Do your techs use the mobile, or is it just the web app?
They use both. I mean, the techs are using the mobile app. That's all
Yeah.
we've given them access to. But the admin side, we use the web app.
Okay, great. So are you live now with all 70 technicians, or are you still rolling out some?
I will say that we are not fully rolled out with all our techs. We're using it mostly amongst the techs that are involved in our direct services portion of
Okay.
work right now. And that group is growing, but right now I'd say we have probably about 25 to 30 of them are engaging in using Zuper at this point.
Okay. So you've got not quite half of them. So you've rolled out a sizable portion, but not the entire team yet.
Correct.
So I know when you were doing the implementation, you ran into some stumbling blocks, just to be perfectly honest. And how did you get past that? And what kind of support did you seek from Zuper to help you get past the initial stumbling blocks that you ran into?
Well, I believe I engaged you. You were,
Yeah.
and then you brought the right resources in to kind of help us pick up steam. A company of our size too, when we don't have a lot of resources, there's a lot of people wearing multiple hats, and so implementing a new system is going to be a challenge for a company like us, no matter what system it is. Because you have to get everyone bought into it, you have to have everyone trained on it, and then making sure we have the right resources on our side. I don't necessarily blame Zuper for some of the hiccups we had during the onboarding process, but I think that as together, when we started meeting together and starting having the right resources at the table, I think that's when the success started to happen. So yeah, I mean, there was a 2 or 3 month period there where we struggled, and then we got things back on track.
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to bring this up in so we have total transparency. Not everything is always smooth, right? And
Correct.
especially when you're implementing a new technology that people are not familiar with. I think the key is, and I'm glad you mentioned that you reached out to us for some support when you had those difficulties. I think the key here is that, when you have difficulties, does the vendor that you're working with, or whether it's software or a building supplier or whoever it is, do they respond to your needs so that you can get back on track? And that's really a key service component, not just for Zuper, but literally for every company, right?
Yeah.
Because not everything goes smooth the first time you buy a new product or implement a new software. And especially with complex software like field service management systems, it's not at all uncommon for people to have difficulties in the beginning.
Yeah, and the other thing about it too, it's like, because there's different departments that are involved, and some of them are afraid of their fiefdoms being invaded by something they don't really know, and how much is it going to expose some inefficiencies in that. So that's part of it too. I mean, we had some internal stuff that we had to make sure that everyone was aware of. Like, we're trying to improve efficiencies. We're not trying to point fingers internally. We're just trying to figure out how to make the solution fit into our stratosphere. And that's what we did. So that's sometimes the challenges a company's going to face when bringing in something new, no matter what it is. And getting back to the whole service thing too, we're in a service industry too, so we're always dealing with customers who are on support agreements, and sometimes we fail them.
Yeah.
So how do we pick that up? And again, I think you guys took the right steps, and that's kind of what we do internally as well. So
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think you're absolutely right. Change management, when you make a big change like this, is so important that you involve the people in the decision, and you make sure that you do everything you can to explain to them why it's a benefit, and get their buy-in. Because without the people's buy-in, it's not going to work, right? It's going to be a failure. If the users don't use the system, it's not going to work for you,
exactly,
no matter what it is. Yeah, so that's great. So give us some examples now, if you can, about how are the technicians that are using it now, how are they using it? Can you give an example or two about a day in the life, so to speak, of a technician that's using the Zuper mobile app?
Yeah, sure. So they'll go to the app and they can see their daily list of appointments that are on there.
Mhm.
And then what they do is they, start each assignment, the workflows are built into it. So it forces them to complete things in a step-by-step manner.
Right.
And so basically that's one of the struggles we were having before, was that customers were, or not customers, but our techs were not following workflows. So it's cool in the sense that it's going to force them now to do these workflows. And so there's a little struggle with educating them and getting them to follow the processes, because they're used to not doing that.
Yeah.
But it gives us ways to go back, and now we can see, okay, they completed this. We have a nice little PDF file. It attaches in the HubSpot. So everything's we can go to one place now and find everything. So it's really, it's been a big help in that sense.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And I know, I mean, I used to manage teams of field service technicians, and it's always a challenge to get all of the technicians to follow the steps that you want them to step and to take, and to do the things that are the most appropriate. So that, I think that's one of the big advantages of the Zuper app, right? Is that you can define your own workflows that are specific to your business process, and your own checklists that are specific to the things you need to do when you're doing an installation or some kind of a maintenance check on a piece of equipment. So it's good to hear that you have taken advantage of that, because that's one of the flexibilities that Zuper offers, and that your technicians are also actually benefiting from that capability as well.
Yeah, and it's, when we didn't have it before, like, it was finding information. You had to go here to get this, there to go that, to get this
Yeah.
other thing. And so, even like images and stuff like that, we would have a Google folder, and then there would be the Google Sheets, and then there would be a Cognito form. And so you see how disjointed everything was. And now it's like, no, that's not the way it is. And so the techs are like, you think they would love the simplicity of this, and they do. Once they're using it, they see the benefit and how it's bringing value,
Right.
and streamlining things for them. So,
well, let's talk about the ultimate end of the process, and that is the customer. How do you think the customers are benefiting from your Zuper implementation and the technicians' use of the Zuper mobile app? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we were using the text when the texts were on their way. So we had some automation that we were using. We ended up having to turn off that piece of it for I think we were having some issues on our end with not having the right phone numbers and things like that. So wrong people were getting text messages. So we turned it off for short term. But the thing is that the text now, everything is kind of simplified in the process. And the customers are going to benefit from the tech not having to go to do different things. Like, they know what they're there for. They have
Right.
all the documentation right in front of them. It's all built into the Zuper into workflow.
Yeah.
Plus the notes and stuff like that. So all that comes over from HubSpot. So they're not flying blind like they were before, and the customer experience is a little better in that sense.
Do you think in many, if not all instances, it's helping the technicians complete work either more quickly or more accurately, or both?
Both. And it lets us know when we have to do follow-ups too.
Yeah.
So we're a lot more aware of things like when the tech leaves, because now if the tech didn't complete the paperwork for a day or two later, we wouldn't know that the customer needed a follow-up. And so the customer's stewing for 2 days. Now we know as soon as that's completed that we got a note for follow-up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. One thing that I know from doing research in the past as well is that technicians hate paperwork. So it's no wonder you had, and I'm surprised you only had a day or a day and a half delay, because oftentimes it's like a week in historical situations where there's no automation.
Well, you met Jamie. Jamie's pretty much a bull in a china shop.
So you mentioned HubSpot. So we are integrated with HubSpot, correct? At Sora Partners. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
So basically what happens is the salesperson will create a deal. And then there's a trigger within the deal that creates an actual ticket, and that ticket creates the ticket into HubSpot for a work order.
Yep.
And so it all kind of flows and brings all the data from HubSpot into Zuper. that's appropriate for the tech to have.
Yeah. And then as the technician is gathering data in Zuper, does some or all of that information also go back to HubSpot?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
So especially when they complete the, there'll be a whole array of notes and everything that the tech has done in Zuper will end up in HubSpot.
So that's a great benefit for the salespeople too, to know what's been going on in the field.
Exactly.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it gives me an opportunity to highlight that we have recently been named an essential application by HubSpot. We are the only field service application so named by HubSpot. So that's been quite an honor for us. And I think just having integrations with customers like you has helped us earn that spot. So thank you for your help in that regard as well.
And when we were looking at solutions, that was a struggle too, was finding people who actually were truly interfacing and integrating into HubSpot.
Yeah.
So that was where we struggled too. And when we were evaluating, everybody's like, oh, we can do this. But then it would be like, oh, we have to have this programmer and it's going to be X number of dollars additional to create this. And this, we're like, no, it's not what we're looking for.
Well, that's great. Yeah, we have, as you may recall from some of your conversations with us when you were, making your decision, we have integrations with over 60 other applications. Obviously, we're really, really proud of the HubSpot integration. They're really well-known and widely respected CRM system for sure.
Yeah, it's every bit as robust as Salesforce and anything else out in the market.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
And so is Zuper, every bit as robust as Salesforce's field service app that Toast apparently continues to use.
Yes.
So one final question, we're coming down to time here. You've got a good portion of your technicians online. Do you have some plans to bring the rest or some of the rest online as well? And if so, do you have any thoughts about a potential timeline for that?
We do. We are, as we continue to migrate and do more direct services, and we're adding new partnerships with other point of sale systems, because Toast is our primary, but we also work with a company called Lavu and Revel, which are two large other competitors against Toast. But we felt that the synergy there with what we do and what they do and what they're looking for was essential. But that market's growing. So as that grows, we're adding more techs that are into the Zuper. So I'd say within the next 12 months, we should have the total workforce. Zuper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great. So, do you anticipate some growth in your team too? I think you do. I think you kind of alluded to that, if not said it outright. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, we just hired, when that number I gave you, we've just hired 3 new people as well. So they're not in that count just yet. And we should probably be about 85 by towards the end of the year.
Well, cool. Well, congratulations on your growth. So just a couple of final questions I want to ask you. Do you have any final thoughts about your implementation of Zuper, especially any wisdom that you might want to pass on to anybody else that is thinking about doing this or something similar?
Yeah, I think with any new system, it's critical to have the proper training, buy-in from your team, evaluate all the feature sets versus what your objectives are. It's never easy sometimes to define some of the things that are unknown and expect those, but that's kind of common in anytime you implement a new solution. But adoption is ultimately what you have to have to make it successful. And so and that comes from the leadership. The leadership has to be communicating that message. This is what we're doing and this is how it's going to be. And there's no exceptions to that.
Good. And then finally, Mark, I just want to give you an opportunity to share with our audience how do people get a hold of you? How do they learn about your services? You never know, we may have some people listening to this, and hopefully we do, that might need your services going forward. So I give you an opportunity to plug yourself.
Awesome. So if you're looking for point of sale implementation services, sorapartners.com. It's SORA partners.com. We also do managed IT networks. So no matter what POS system you're using, we can actually come in and manage the total IT tech stack for you, provide PCI compliance, provide a completely secure network situation for you at a very reasonable cost and a monthly subscription. And we look forward to having your business. We always work hard to keep it.
That's great. Thank you for that. And how do people get a hold of you?
If they would like to reach us directly, they can reach our office at 310-734-2572. And that's our support. That's actually our main office for sales, and it's headquartered in Orlando.
Let's repeat it. 310-734-2572. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, my memory works. Good.
Yes, better than mine.
That was impressive, Michael.
Go ahead, Mark.
That was impressive because I can barely remember anybody's phone number anymore. But yeah, we look forward to the opportunity to work with any Zuper customers or any customers who need help with their point of sale systems or IT solutions.
Great. And it's sorapartners.com again, right?
It is sorapartners.com.
Mark, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. The information that you've shared with us is very, very helpful, and I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to work with you.
Well, Michael, I appreciate it. Thanks for everything you've done to keep this on track and help us along. So we appreciate your wisdom and advice.
All right, great. Have the great rest of your week and a very, very pleasant weekend.
You too. All right. Thanks, guys.
Michael, if somebody wants to get in touch with you with some questions, how do they do that?
Sure, that's easy. It's Zuper, ZUPER.co to get in touch with anyone here at Zuper, but they can reach me directly. My email is very simple. It's Michael, MICHAEL, @Zuper.co. Once again, Michael @Zuper.co.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening today. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, I'm Wendy McConnell.